Good evening out there. Welcome everybody. It's Chris Watson here with Black Male Educators Alliance. Getting ready for another IG Live conversation. Have a dynamic guest who will be joining us. Looking forward to it tonight. Let me see who we got. Got my co-host, Mr. Mike Payne, getting ready to join in. If you're watching this, please share it out. And let's get Mike on here. Got my guy Ken, got Chris, Joe Bush. Appreciate y'all tapping in with us. Mike, what's up, brother?
Chris, what's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. You know, wrapping up the month of June.
Yes, sir. Happy belated Father's Day to you, man.
Same to you, bro. Happy Father's Day, man. How was your Father's Day?
Man, it was good, man. Weather was good, man. Hit the grill a little bit. I saw y'all previously, so it was just a good time and relaxing. Hanging with Mikey, man. It was real good, man. How was your Juneteenth?
It was good, man. You know, kind of just did some chilling. I visited a couple Black-owned businesses over in the neighborhood. Actually, you know, that was good. And spend time with the family. Can we get a pipeline for Black educators nationwide? That's part of the work. That's part of what we're doing, you know, so appreciate you joining us on this call. That's what we do. We work with educators around the country and with schools. So, yeah, that's definitely part of the work. I said we got our guest, Ms. Jessie Feliz. She's already in the chat. She's ready to jump on. But weekend was good. Father's Day was good. We had the Educator Wellness Fellowship barbecue to end the year. That was a whole vibe. So, man, it's been a lot of good stuff going on, Mike.
No, we actually had the gala. We haven't been on since the gala, man.
Wow.
Or the gala.
Yeah, right.
Pardon me, man. The gala, man. So I know folks who was there. They loved it. It was a great event. We already thinking about the one for next year. But for those who missed it, please, Vern, what's up, Vern? For those who missed it, you know what I'm saying, check out that one we got going on next year. It's definitely going to be bigger and better.
Yes, man. Forgot about the gala. That was the vibe. Yeah, that was a night we won't forget. Mrs. Watson is in the building. Said the gala was litty. It was. It was definitely a great time. And then, you know, another thing we had the Family Engagement Day. That was another event we did. Shout out to Joe Bush, our director of mentoring. We brought all of our families together from our various mentor programs at different schools. So they all got together, man, had weekends, back-to-back cookouts. There's been a lot going on with BMEA, but it's been a great end to a great school year, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of taking us to our show this year. When Jessie gets a chance to join, we'll bring her on. But, as the school year closes out, we have our celebrations. You know, we're thinking about the summertime, and for a lot of parents, they got to kind of figure out what they're going to do with their kids. And so we wanted to make sure that every summer, as we close out the year, we highlight some of the great work that's being done in the summer programs, summer camps, opportunities. So our guest today is going to talk a little bit about what they do and also just the importance of foreign language and for our students learning.
Cool. Without further ado, let's bring Jessie Feliz on. She's been waiting, and let's just jump straight into it. So our guest today is going to talk a little bit about what they do, and also just the importance of foreign language and for our students learning. Cool. Jessie, are you there? Oh, no. Let's see.
Jump straight into it.
There we go.
Hola. ¿Cómo están? How are you doing?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Bien, gracias a Dios. Todo está bien. Lo siento, es que yo tengo dos teléfonos. I have two different phones. I thought I had my good phone, as I like to say it, but está bien. We're going to use the other phone.
Got you.
Happy Thursday.
I like how you spoke in Spanish. You got English for the person like me who's like, okay, I'm struggling. I need to.
Being a language person like you, because we are all capable of speaking like, as I think Dr. Cammie J's here. I see her with Black bilingual brown babies, as she lets you know, we all got that language swag. It is embedded in our DNA to be multilingual people. So yeah, I got to bring it in. I'm gonna do what I do.
Absolutely, and that's why we had you. That's what we wanted to talk about today. A little bit about that. But Chris, go ahead. You can start us off.
Yes. Well, listen. This is one of my former colleagues, and we've been connected for years now. I saw this woman teach and change lives. Like I'm talking truly dynamic. You know, you can't just use that, you know, that word lightly. You know,
Yeah.
we've actually, you know, I don't know if we have video clips on our page, but I've looked at old video clips since we've, you know, worked together. And every time I see it, I'm like, man, Jessica killing it, and just like the joy you bring students. But I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got into teaching Spanish. Because I don't think Spanish was the first language that you learned. Correct me if
Absolutely
I'm
not.
wrong. So yeah, let us
Absolutely
know how
not.
did you, because you speaking like you in Dominican Republic, but let us know your path and how did you develop the skill set and what made you, how'd you get into teaching?
Yes, thank you again, Chris and Mike. Thank you. Es un placer. So thankful. So I'm Jessie Feliz, born in Detroit, raised here in Michigan, went to Western, go Broncos, and everybody when I was in school, when it came to studying abroad, it was either go to Spain or go to Mexico. And I am a Pisces. I like familiar waters, but I also got to be a free spirit. So I was like, you know what? I want to go somewhere that nobody else talks about. And you see the flag behind me. That's La Bandera Costarricense. I was like, let's go to Costa Rica. So in '05, I studied abroad in Costa Rica. I lived with a Costa Rican family. I had an amazing roommate, my girl Tiffany Nordy from Ski Town. And we were roommates for a semester, but we lived and were fully immersed in a Spanish-speaking country. And a former colleague of mine was like, well, wait a minute. And I went to a university, and the traditional like form of like an immersion experience, I had that. But a friend of mine from Philly was like, well, have you heard of limon? And I'm like, limon? Limon means lemon in English. I'm like, what you mean limon? She was like, that's the black side. And I'm like, huh? Still to this day, let me not say any, the majority of textbooks, when you, or even search some Costa Rica travel, they're not going to show you the melanated people, whether we're talking about the indigenous people or the Afro-Caribbean people of Costa Rica. And so when I went there that one weekend, and again, they took us on excursions every weekend, they never took us to the Caribbean side. And again, being extranjera, a foreigner, I didn't know. It's still, Costa Rica is over 80 different microclimates. So whether you're in the montañas or you're like deep in the rainforest or on the beach, all of it's gorgeous, all of it. But then something happened when I went to the Caribbean side many moons ago. And see, they never do come look at, he said, Dr. Cami. They don't tell us because actually, just for folks that don't know, 2/3 of our ancestors that were forced to make that migratory trip, right? That was not like, oh, please take me over there on this boat. That were enslaved and brought over here were brought to what is present day Latin America and the Caribbean, right? Only approximately 1/3 was brought to what we call the United States of America. So honestly, we're more closely related, right, with our melanated brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and the Spanish-speaking Latin American world than we are necessarily all the way to Africa, right? It's just that who was dispersed and deposited where. Well, anyway, it was just something so beautiful to see Black people speaking Spanish and a form of patois and in English and just all these things. And because I never saw this image. Oh, yes, yes. Mamita Watson.
Hold on, don't give her no
I'm going to
idea.
August, but we're going next year, trust me.
You're supposed to keep read over that comment.
Yeah,
Okay,
Chris.
Jessie Feliz travel. Trust me, we do big things. Oh, see, we got Dr. Cami. She gonna bring it right there. Look, she gonna like exactly. It's la verdad, Senor Dr. Lewis. I gotta pay respect where respect's due. That brother right there has a supernatural force, and I'm so thankful that él me ofreció un trato, a job in Detroit. As soon as I came back, I was so happy to have that experience. Thank you, Dr. Lewis. I always give you those kudos, and it just was something for me because I didn't see a melanated person in the textbooks. I didn't see, even at the college level, melanated people teaching Spanish, right? And so having that experience not only as a student, but then I was studying Spanish to be an educator, that triggered something. So then fast forward, I always like to tell the story. When I first started teaching, I moved out of Baltimore. And I never forget, Travis Ben Watkins was like, my first year, I graduated December '07, so I came in right after the new year. And I never forget, old school, this is before all this nice photo stock we have now. It was like old school clip art. And I never forget, Travis was like, hey, yo, teacher, how come none of those images behind you on the board look like us? You know, the old school clip art that generally looks like Bart Simpson color, yellow people or whatever. And so I was looking and I was like, you know what? This is before the term cultural responsiveness or cultural relevant. Before this was a buzz term to name what all practitioners should be doing in every type of school setting, not just in the hood or not just with melanated people. And I never forget when he made that comment. I was like, you know what? They don't look like us and they don't look like you, but I promise you, let's continue the lesson. And tomorrow I'm going to make sure I have some images that reflect the cultures represented in this classroom. And that is really what made me, I think, it was a major milestone in my teaching career, because I was like, wait a minute, I can bring all the pizzazz and the energy, but if I'm not representing and connecting my children with not just the images, but the perspectives, and, you know, and offering diverse perspectives in what's going on, then they don't see themselves represented in what we're learning. So why would they want to learn it? So, yeah, that's that. And fast forward, now I'm here, still teaching Spanish to this day.
No, that's a really dope story, and I'm glad that it kind of ties to a lot of our reasons for teaching, really like doing better for Black people and our children. But when we talk about teaching Spanish or foreign language in general, I think a lot of people underestimate the value of it, and you can kind of see how it's treated in school, right? It's not math and English, so it's not a standardized test subject. But can you just tell the folks a little bit about like why it's so important for students to learn this foreign language, and then also, what do you think some of the reasons are people are struggling with learning Spanish in high school or in the middle school area?
Wow. So, numero uno, as Dr. Cami always talks about, it is within all human DNA, right? We have the capability. There's roughly like 200 vowels and roughly 600 consonants across the world, right? Not like the U.S., like U.S. English, we have about 40 something, but of all languages, every bambino that is born has a capacity of receiving and perceiving and processing these sounds. It is literally in every single human child, not limited to Black people or any other type of people. However, part of the diaspora, the damage that was done, we were not only separated, we talk about our culture, but with that culture comes language and the way that you express oneself. And there are a plethora of benefits of learning multiple languages outside of your home language or your regional language. We know, I'm going to say one that people don't like to talk about, but it's not going to impact us till we get older per se. But when we talk about the United States rates of dementia and Alzheimer's compared to even poor countries, socioeconomic countries that are not financially as fiscal, right? Well, I shouldn't say as fiscal as the U.S., but you know what I mean. We don't say third world. So developing countries that speak multiple languages, and that's the norm, the rates of dementia is so much lower because you literally, there's a part of the center of your brain, Dr. Cami, remind me the name of it, but it looks like the shape of the heart. And when you speak more than one language, including reading music is another language, right? Sign language is another language. Literally, you're creating neural pathways, just like when you're lifting weights in the gym or you're going for a jog. You are exercising a part of your brain that when you are monolingual, that you don't have those connections. So as we get older and our body already is going through different changes, right? Now you have less opportunities. Just like if I don't work out, if I'm not walking, if I'm not doing things to keep my body physically in shape, then I'm going to have physical health problems. Like that's just going to happen. So what do we think happens mentally? That's just one benefit, like for us thinking even for the future. But making these connections, not only with other people, but even within yourself. You know, I love reading text, and there's some meanings that only can be expressed in that language. And it means something. I don't know what that baselang.com, I'll have to check that out. I don't know. Someone said, what is my thoughts? I'll have to check that out. I don't know what that site is. I don't want to say yay or nay on it. But there's so much power. I find that I can switch and read a text in one language, or I can express myself in one way, and it conveys something different than if I translate it to another language. One other thing, as a mom, when I lived in Costa Rica, I had my daughter, my first child I had in Costa Rica. And I worked at, I had so many, it's in the Caribbean, you have to have like 3 jobs. I was teaching, I was running like a jungle lodge, I was doing accounting work, I was doing stuff that I didn't even go to school for, right? But it was an amazing experience. And I worked with a lot of women or they, who were the maids at the different places or different service women, and sometimes they had their children with them. So I acquired the sound of una mamá, like disciplining her child. And I don't know if it's a cheesy part of me, but when I discipline my daughter in English, it's like I get like a 50% obedience rate. But when I switch it to Spanish for some reason, I get like 1,000% compliance. And I'm like, wait a minute. My native language is English, so I sound like a punk when I did something like, Vea por favor, haga la cama. I'm like, Abby, make your bed. It doesn't sound the same, because the way you express it as well. It's all these things. So there's so many benefits, let alone social economically. I just dropped this quote earlier in the meeting today. Roughly 20% of Americans, U.S. citizens, identify with being bilingual. But this is primarily a result of heritage, is not from schooling, right? Yet, currently, 45% of jobs in the United States require both English and Spanish. Now, wait a minute. So this is a disservice to our children if we are not equipping them, because we know there's an ongoing and ever-increasing demand for bilingual workforce. And I am all for migrate where you're going to do and make the best decision for your family. However, what about the best decision for our community, too? We should be able to apply for a bilingual position and use our native English skills as well as our Spanish-speaking skills, or whichever other language, but Spanish, just because I know right now that is a growing demand. But why is it limited? Why is it available for people who speak Espanol in casa and have acquired English? Why? Look at that disparity. So, that really is a passionate thing. And lastly, I'm going to shut up because I know I can say this, but this is part of who I'm, right? And Dr. Cami knows as well. Like, upon returning back to the U.S., the second time, so I taught 6 years in Baltimore, and then I moved abroad, sold everything I had, moved abroad, and was like, I'm just going to be an expat. And this is before the digital nomad era that now everybody could work online. Like, I was there at one point, didn't even have internet. I mean, it was just like cray-cray. But it was an amazing experience. Having developed what I like to call Spanish swag, you're never going to be 100% native because that's not you. Just like someone that learns English will never be 100% regionally native sounding as you. However, you can develop what I like to call that swag, that sound similar. I like to speak como una persona nativa. And so when I have come back, and even still to this day, people make the assumptions that, oh, where are you from? Or who's Latina in your family? And I'm like, at one point I realized, well, wait a minute. At first it was a compliment, like, oh, that means I'm speaking really good, okay. But then it turned to, well, wait a minute. So why can't someone be Black American and speak multiple languages? Why is this just a rarity? And that's not cool. That's not cool. And our kids need to see images of themselves in every content area, And so, yeah, that's that answer. Elongated, but that's it.
So I want to piggyback, and Mike sort of mentioned this, but I want to hit on this because so many of us, we go through years of Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I was taking Spanish in elementary school, then middle school, then I took it in high school. Mm-hmm. And I know the vowel sounds a little bit, but I'm not confident. I told you earlier, I'm like, okay, yep, glad you said the English version. So like, what's the struggle and the disconnect? Because even my daughter's in Spanish, she's been taking it for some years, and I don't think she has like that confidence, and also her skills can improve as well. But what's happening inside the classroom where our babies are not really picking it up at that level to be able to fluently speak and actually be bilingual?
Yes, buena pregunta. So I had a professor from España, and because when I originally graduated Western, I was certified 7 through 12, and then secondary became, remember, 6 through 12. But then I wanted to become K through 12, and so a few years ago, in order to do that, they honored my years of teaching, but then they also had to require me to take one more graduate level course. And it was a linguistics course, and I absolutely loved the course. And I never forget what my professor said. She said, hay una diferencia entre la competencia y la actuación. There's a difference between just having the knowledge, the competency, that goes across, again, subject areas. This is not limited to learning languages here in the U.S., but since we're talking about that, we can study for a test, right? We can conjugate the verb in the sentence. We can do this right here, but then the actuación, if you're not giving opportunities to practice your skill in the classroom and get real-time feedback. But hold up, if the educator in front of you doesn't have a mindset or the skill set, that's another issue, because I'm not going to throw any shade. But I remember being in this course, and this is my emphasis on the swag, right? At the same time, I greatly benefited from this Spanish linguistic course. I learned un montón. I was so thankful. I also at the same time said, wow, I was the oldest person in the class because, again, I returned I think it was 2021 when I took this course. And the first day of class, and this was a graduate advanced level Spanish course, and the teacher says, you know, like, how long you been speaking Spanish? And many people responded, yo estudio español por 3 años. And no one corrected. And this is going to be someone's Spanish teacher. So when I'm saying, you know, this is like the status quo, you're not the only one, Chris. Is like, how many of us, I myself have to like consciously, that's a W in the swag, woke, consciously be aware of what you saying. You know, it's like, are you aware? Are you practicing mindfulness? And I'm gonna say this as well, and people don't like to say this. As much as I say we need to humanize the language learning experience, and that is, swag is a framework not just for learning, but it's for teaching, because we honestly have to decolonize the way that we teach languages. And we're still bringing colonizer energy. And this goes for language educators, and they can have great intentions. You know, all these amazing activities, oh, we're going to do this report and do this. But if I'm not practicing mindfulness in my lesson design, in my delivery, you know, then am I just, we complain, I'm not just an elective teacher. I'm not just a special teacher. Well, am I delivering? Am I creating an environment? Am I like cultivating intrinsic motivation to speak like am I modeling that myself? You know, so all those things work in tandem. And I'm going to talk about some of these universities as well, because they're not addressing this at the university level. And people are passing their teacher exam, passing the national language oral proficiency exam, because you have to have an advanced score to technically become certified now. But yet and still we have this disconnection, right? Hay una brecha. There's this gap between la competencia y la actuación.
No, you're speaking so much to the conversation I had with Dr. Baker Bell about just Black linguistics, and just to your point about like how we learn language is so colonized. And I think that the same way some of us struggle with learning English, even though that's the language we speak, or just language arts in general, the struggle like carries over to Spanish. And to your earlier point, I did Spanish all the way from middle school to high school, but I didn't actually feel comfortable speaking Spanish, so I spent a week in Puerto Rico. And it was like you like being in there, being immersed. And I think people talk about the word immersion, like that's the best way. But I think even bringing that into the classroom still gives you that same experience where you kind of just like, it's all around you, everything. Even when you were like kind of like using your hands to talk, like that's the easy, like people don't even do that when they're trying to teach the language. But just to spin it a little bit to what you're doing right now, because obviously, you know, you're doing great work. You have a summer camp going on right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep. So for those that are in Detroit area or Metro Detroit area, I work in partnership with Mission City Community Center here in Bmore. See, I traded the Bmore for Baltimore, and now I'm Bmore and Brightmore. Okay. So I'm so proud for that. Yes, so I have a weekly Spanish camp. We meet Wednesdays from 5 to 7 p.m. here in Bmore and Mission City. And then also come July 1, you can again follow me on Jessie Feliz Plus, and you can visit my site, SpanishSwag.com or JessieFeliz.com. I have my on-demand learning program, the upgraded version of it. So it doesn't matter if you are here, if you are in Atlanta, if you in the Chi, wherever you are, your kids can access this. And what makes our program different is that you have native speakers providing content, but you actually have teachers who know how to teach, giving you that live, real instruction, but it's still on demand. And I want to give a shout out to one of my amazing students, Ziggy Jones from KZoo. Yes, if y'all didn't know, Kalamazoo is a city, IKEA, Michigan. She has only studied Spanish with me once a week, 45 minutes, once a week. This past year we did an hour, but you know, log in, stretch, like actual active like time, right, with me. Once a week with breaks in the summer. I just want to emphasize this. From Kalamazoo, has never studied Espanol in school. As an outside metric tool, I use the National Spanish Challenge. I have not created this assessment. It is created by the AATSAP, the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. She scored a 95% on the National Spanish Challenge and has only studied virtually. So even during the pandemic, right, even with virtual learning, and I'm going to say it, and I put in a presentation earlier, students can still experience joy even with asynchronous learning if it's done right. Even with learning, because the same energy, if you really bout it, that same la misma energía that you bring in the four walls of your classroom, you gotta bring it virtually. Because if they're not connected to you and you to them, then what you think is gonna happen, right? And so we have to look at the alphas that we are teaching. We have to look at the Gen Z. It's not about you. You gotta bring it. So anybody that comes to me talking about these kids can't learn and they don't want to do that, I'm like, huh? It's you, bro. It's not them. It's you. So yeah, SpanishSwag.com, JessieFeliz.com. I have an in-person camp, but again, I know with our schedules, and that's why I developed this on-demand learning program, because I have students in different time zones, and I couldn't keep ending my evening so late. And so now I have this on-demand resource. The upgraded new version will be available July 1, and I'm super excited about it.
Wow. You know, it's an honor to do these, because I know you got a lot of people on here. But, you know, you got, like, parents and people who go through real stuff, so I'm glad you're on here. Because, like, we were literally just talking to our daughter about Spanish, and it's a real struggle. So I'm hoping, like, the people, like, feeling it. I'm off track on my questions. So how can parents better support their students learning Spanish at home?
So what is so amazing, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. What is really amazing about the era that we live in with the internet, there are so many resources for free, right? I know everyone got different budgets. I'm not trying to be anybody's wallet, but there are so many different free resources. When I talk about the swag, one free resource that I like is Spanish Dict, D-I-C-T, get your mind out together, short for dictionary.com. Whenever I introduce that, like the elementary kids don't get it, but middle school and higher, I always have to say Spanish dictionary minus the anary, because I don't need any, oh my gosh, right? Pero, what I love about that is you can type most general expressions and just about all words in English and get the translation with examples, but you get to see a visual of a native speaker. Now, the dialect is limited to one profile of a Spaniard and one profile of a Latin American citizen. However, it's still to have that, raise that consciousness so that you can hear it. I will also just suggest for parents working with your children, whatever vocabulary words, well, but you have to be mindful of this because you don't know what will come up. But what I like to do is look up hashtags. But again, you would have to like do that with your child, but have them follow native speakers, appropriate native speakers, especially if they're bilingual. And it can be comedy. And you want to match it to their interests. That's the biggest thing. Whatever you're interested in, whatever your child's interested in, whether it's sports, whether it's reading a certain genre of books, if they like a certain type of TV show, if they listen to this type of YouTuber, try to get what that interest is. And then you want to find someone who's bilingual or Spanish speaking that talks about that topic. And that really, really helps. There's like 2 or 3 people that I follow. And one is, he's Mexicano, he's Chicano, Jesus Chuy Garcia. And he does these comics, Spanish Weekend video game. Thank you so much, Dr. Cami. Yes, that is very helpful. If you got a gamer at home, they could get into the game chats and practice that real life and hear it, you know, with all that stuff. I'm not a gamer, but I know I have many students that do that as well. But when he puts the towel, when this comedian wraps a paño over his head, that's when he's acting like his mama or his auntie. So for me, as a mama, I listen to that so I can pick up, because that's relevant to my life. I'm somebody's mama, so I can develop that cadence of somebody's mama, you know, because those phrases are applicable to me, you know. And so you really want to do that, because think about what the data is saying. One, specifically for alphas and for Gen Z, more people are searching for anything on TikTok than even YouTube or Google now. Like, our preferred search engine right now, the data is saying, is TikTok, the vertical video. That's why YouTube came up with shorts. I mean, you know, this concept, why we're doing this vertical video now, this is the preferred, especially for Gen Z. Those are going to be your 8th graders and up. Alphas are our babies, elementary and early middle school right now. You got to study and parents, just in general, not just with languages, do a quick Google search. Or TikTok search, behaviors of alphas. Like, you got to speak your child's language. And when we talk about cultural responsiveness, more and more traditional Black culture attributes, as you all know, is becoming more diluted and blended. And now it's really about the generation, right? Because there's shared behaviors that alphas. It doesn't matter if you're Asian American. It doesn't matter if you're from Nigeria, per se. It doesn't matter if you are Black American from Detroit or if you're white American from whatever state. There's shared generational behaviors that you want to also know. And so tap into that, do the research as a parent. We got to keep up with it, still maintain your home culture, but also be mindful, especially when it comes to supporting your child. Oh, my sister said you got to speak in Roblox. Yeah, Kelly.
Right.
Like, I promise you, my daughter, she'll say sometimes, oh, my battery is drained. And I'm like, huh? And she's talking about herself.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head when you talk about how generations underneath us are tied closer culturally than just race anymore, especially with technology and just how it works. So that's a really good point. That's a whole other conversation, Chris, we're going to have to put on the docket for the show, just to talk about that, what culture responsive means. But Jeff, it's been amazing talking to you. Like, this was a great conversation, not just about Spanish, but just really about how we do education in general. So we appreciate you joining us again. Always been a friend of the show. Before we close out, can you please let people know where they can find you, where they can follow you once again? I'll make sure Chris puts that up. But go ahead and drop all your tags and your information.
Yes. Gracias, Mia. Thank you all so much. Jessie Feliz Plus. Oh, that's right. Jessie Feliz Plus, and Plus because you always gonna get a little bit more of me than what you think. I don't want anybody getting too comfortable, right? It's Spanish teacher plus. Okay. So Jessie Feliz Plus. That's my handle on all platforms. I'm also an edutainer. I love to make it funny because that's how I was raised. It's like life is funny. You got to make a joke out of things and keep the energy flowing. My website's Jessie Feliz, and that's JESSIEFELIZ. Ain't no X, ain't no Felix. It's a Zeta like Feliz Navidad. And you can check that out to learn more about me on a professional level as well as my summer camp. But check out Spanish Swag. And July 1, we are dropping it. And also on July 1, we will have the audio workbook where you can learn, because I'm bringing it back to that audio. I have kids in after school programs. They put the headset on. They have a color workbook, and they're following along with the prompts. You got to know some kids just need the audio. Sometimes they don't need the visual and the audio. It's too much stimulation. You got to learn about that. That will be available on Amazon come July 1 as well. So I appreciate you gentlemen so much. And we just got to increase this rate of bilingualism. I'm not limiting it to Spanish, but we see the numbers, right? So you want to set your kids up so they can navigate this world in a bilingual, multilingual way con éxito, with success.
Yeah. Hey, this was great. You're gonna be hearing from the Watson household because I want to find if I can get my daughter signed up for the summer program. If not, July 1st, that's next week, right after payday. So we're gonna do what we gotta do to get the resources.
Yeah, and the gala, gentlemen. First of all, that was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm gonna say it again. Absolutely amazing. And I'm so thankful that you all did that. I'm so thankful for the work that you are doing, because we cannot be separated, right? We need Black men in our schools. Black men are part of the community, right? We need all of us there. And so it was such an amazing experience. Just the energy there, the work that you all are committed to doing. So I want to encourage everyone. I know people are already following you all, but if you know a Black male educator or someone who's interested, because we got to do this recruitment early on and to support Black men in the field of education as well. So yes, I applaud you all for the work that you're doing too.
Thank you so much. We're happy to do the work, and we're glad that you're doing the work on your end too, because it's so important to have, like I said, having representation, having Black representation in Spanish in the foreign language. So we appreciate all you do, and we hope you enjoy your summer. I do a lot of work. I hope you get some rest and relaxation, maybe a little Costa Rica in the near future, something like that.
Yeah.
So appreciate you.
Most definitely.
All right. Enjoy your evening.
All right, Jesse.
Ciao.
We'll talk to you.
Adios. See, Chris, you got to get your Spanish, man. You ain't,
No, look,
I can give you a couple lessons, man.
I let you speak the Spanish on the team. I just kept my my little de nadas and nadio. I just kept it in today, but I got some in me. Don't get it twisted. I got some of it.
Yeah. Listen, the key is, man, I put the Netflix on. I watch some of those Spanish shows and just put the English translation on, English subtitles, or I do the opposite, put the Spanish subtitles on and watch it in English, and just like, you know what I mean, just have it. It don't really mess up the show, but it just helps you kind of like put words to words that you're familiar with. Just a little bit, man. Not even, you know what I mean, so you can listen to it better. Like, I can listen to it way better than I can speak it, but that's more or less just how much I actually put into it, man. But that's definitely, man, it was a great show, man. I like this one, man. I'm glad we got to wrap the year up with this one.
Yes. Yeah, Payne, did you make a mistake and turn your Wi-Fi off on your phone? Because your internet is real, you little.
Nah, man, I don't know, maybe it's the wind or something. I'm sorry about that. The glitches in Spanish, yeah, I was speaking too much Spanish. My Wi-Fi.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we appreciate everyone tapping in with us today. It's been another great episode. We're going to sign off. I'm going to sign off for my brother Payne because he's a little choppy and pixelated over there. We appreciate y'all joining us. If you haven't already, please follow us. Please follow Jessie Feliz. We'll be sure to put her information up on the page so you can connect with her. It's BMEA, Chris Watson signing out, my brother Mike Payne. We'll see you all soon. Take care.